A word is dead when it is said, some say. But I say, it just begins to live that day. And that is by Emily Dickinson.
Yeah, that's right.
You was right on the tip of your tongue, right? Well, welcome to StoriesRoc, where we lift the words off the page and we breathe life into them. Tonight, we are presenting a program called Kitchen Confidential. All of these stories are true personal stories that we share in front of a live audience. And so I'm just delighted to welcome you. My name is Leah Ruckberg, and I'll be your host today. Our next presenter, Berdjouhi Esmerian, was born in Alexandria, Egypt, to Armenian parents, and she became multilingual before she came to Rochester in 1964 to join the editorial department of Lawyers Cooperative Publishing Company, where she served for 30 years. With 3 friends, she co-authored a memoir called According to Us, and I see Diane is one of her co-writers. And she is now writing her own story about how she remembers life coming from Egypt to the United States and about her experiences once she got to her new homeland. Fascinating life. Berdjouhi loves to bake. Notice that's a kind of a common thing here. She likes to bake more than she likes to cook. But she never uses the same recipe as it is. She changes it a little or a lot. And then, if it's really, really good, she goes back and tries to make it again and can't quite remember those modifications she made. But I'm sure they were good anyway. She is going to talk to us tonight about her education in French cooking. So,
Okay, it's good.
is that about right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, I'll get out of your way.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
I'm going to tell my story, but this is just my security blanket. I came to the United States when I was 30 years old, so my education part happened before. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Oops. Woo! And between the years, I finished high school and started university. I had about 2 years at home, just enjoying life. And one day, a friend of mine called to say, the French Franciscan nuns are giving a 3-month French cooking class. I would like to attend it. Do you want to come with me? I said, sure, that would be good. And she said, we're going to learn how to bone a chicken. Fine. So the 2 of us, this is how we would do it. We'd take the bus. No, let me go back. Now, in anticipation of these classes, and the fact that there were going to be ovens to work with, I went to buy a few Pyrex dishes and platters. Now, why? Because in those days, in Alexandria, most people didn't have an oven at home. What we had were stove tops, and butagas, which I'm finding out is unknown here, is some kind of natural gas, is what we used to purchase and use that to get the fire. What did we do with the baking stuff? Well, we prepared everything, whether it was a meal or a dessert or anything. And we would send it to the bakery, to the commercial bakery. And they would put it among their own breads and bake it the way we wanted. They were used to it. And then a few hours later, we would get them back, and that's how we went. So therefore, now I'm going to take this class. There will be ovens, and I don't even know how to use them. So anyway, so we took the bus about half an hour's distance. We would go to the class. They had no more than 6 students because there were only 6 stoves, 6 ovens. The teacher was one of the nuns, and she would have about 5 or 6 different recipes, a list of them. You would go over them and choose which one you wanted to do. And you would learn how to do it, the different techniques and things like that, and then bake it. And sometimes we would share each other's, and sometimes we would take ours home. I did a lot of taking home because my parents used to entertain a lot in the evening. They had a good social life that they visited each other, and there had to be an entertainment type things. So I did a lot of baking of desserts and things, and we used some of that in addition to what my mother used to do. We also shared each other's and learned each other's techniques. Now those are some of the things that I learned to do. How to make different French sauces like roux, bechamel, and different pastries from scratch. Pâte brisée, which is pie crust, or pâte feuilletée, which is puff pastry. And then from those days, I learned 2 things that stayed with me. One of them was, one night, parents were expecting friends again. So what I did was, I'll make a flan. I had it in a square, oblong Pyrex dish, flat. I baked it, it looked great. And we got in the bus, and we are coming back. Now the buses weren't old or anything. Alexandria had very good bus system. But there was just a little bit of jostling in there. So we get home, and I opened the top to show my mother what I have been doing. And the whole thing had broken up into small pieces, no bigger than a quarter. It looked like a jigsaw puzzle. So now I learned this. You make a flan and it is good, but make sure it is cool and cold before you take it on the bus. And then at the very end, we had to bone a chicken. Now remember, I didn't say that before, but up to this point, I was no good in the kitchen. My mother did everything, and all I did was help her with minimal jobs like, while she was stirring the batter for a cake, I would just spoon in a little bit of the flour at the time and things like that. But I had never touched raw meat in my life. No fish, no beef, and no chicken. Well, I had to touch these raw things. Also, in those days, when you bought a chicken, you bought the whole chicken. It was dead, but you bought the whole thing. You had to remove the feathers, cut the throat, take out the insides, and clean it, and then cook it. And the only thing that was good about this was I didn't have to clean it. They had done all the cleaning of it. There was a little opening at the neck part and a little other opening in the bottom part, and they had removed everything. So all we had to do was work on the bone. Now in order to do that, what you need is different kinds of knives and different lengths and different widths. And you start with the wing. You just go back and forth and break the tip of the wing, throw that out, and with the thinnest knife you start through the hole and separate the back and forth motion, separate the bone from the flesh. Then you do the other wing, then you do the legs. Now you have to remove the whole chest and the back. You start from the neck and go into the, between the skin and the bone. Now this is the toughest part because there is no flesh there, it's just skin. And you cannot have any kind of hole in the skin, it has to stay together. So you do that, and then you go to the other end and you remove the whole, all the bones. It takes you 1 whole hour to do this. And then you end up with what? Just, just something that doesn't look like anything. So I figured, yeah, this is a good lesson. In biology, we have no shape without the bones. Now, this isn't the end. Now you have to reconstruct the chicken. What you do is, there is beef, pork, veal, slices of those meats. You insert this cavity and you fill the cavity with these 3 meats. And you saw the openings all over. Then you get a big pot and you put a lot of water in it. You put the chicken in there, and then you add more, some vegetables and more pork. And you simmer this for 2.5 to 3 hours. Then gently remove the chicken. Now it has a shape. It looks like a chicken again. So you remove the chicken and put it on a platter while it is sitting there. You continue simmering this liquid until it is reduced so that it is going to start to gel. Because, oh, I forgot the most important one. You have to put in there 5 pork feet for the gelatin. And, okay, now you have a mess. Pour this whole thing through the sieve and gather the clear liquid. Now you have a pan that should be similar to a bread pan. You pour part of this liquid in the bottom, just a little bit. Put it in the fridge and have it gel. When you have that has gel, you put the chicken in there and add the rest of the liquid and put it back in the fridge. And when it's all gelled, you take it out, you unmold it and put it on a platter and slice it, and with nice decorations of vegetables and things, it's a buffet item. Now all along, my father was delighted to see me doing all these things. He would go brag, he liked to brag about me a lot. But and even before. So he would tell his friends, my daughter is making this, my daughter is making that. When I went home one day, I made one for us. He was so happy. So another day he came home from work, he said, you know what, I invited some of my friends and told them and their wives, my daughter is going to make boned chicken as part of the menu. You are all invited for dinner. So I had to make about 3 chickens for that dinner. And that's my story. But in order to come up with you see, I haven't done this since I came to this country, because for one thing, I didn't have the knives, I didn't know where I would find them, and then I didn't have an extra hour to waste preparing. So I dug up my original book, notebook, and I brought it with me.
Oh, I love it.
And I read it again so I could tell you the recipe correctly. The method I remembered, but the contents I couldn't. Now this is the book. It's written all in French in pencil. Oh, here's in pencil.
Oh, wow.
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 And I have included, another interesting thing about this is, we could copy all the recipes. It wasn't just that we could copy the one we chose. We could copy all the others that we wanted. So in order to save time, I used to use shorthand. I learned how to do that in French. And there is a method that I had learned which used the same system for German, English, and French. To this day, I use a little bit of the English. And I started reading it, and I couldn't remember much of the shorthand. Fortunately, I had taken the time at that time to write this all in longhand, correctly, properly, in another notebook, which is at home. But I thought it would be interesting to see this, 1955 to today. That's how old this book is.
Oh, my.